Something big is happening inside Halas Hall, and it's not just routine business. Out of nowhere, 7 different players were brought in for tryouts on December 9th, and the timing, the positions, and the names involved tell us something major is brewing. Quiet days don't usually turn into roster shakeups, but today feels different. It feels like the Bears are preparing for a move that nobody saw coming. Before we break everything down, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon so you never miss breaking Bears news. If you enjoy real updates without the fluff, then support the channel and stay locked in with me. Back to Halas Hall. 7 players, 2 wide receivers, 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive backs, and even a quarterback once tied to Green Bay all walked through Chicago's doors on a freezing winter day. When a team brings in this many names at once, especially across multiple positions, it usually means one thing: someone might be hurt, someone might be on the way out, or someone might be getting replaced. Brad Biggs reported that the Bears hosted wide receivers Jha'Quan and Dohnte Meyers, defensive tackles Keondre Coburn and Raikes, defensive backs Joshua Bledsoe and Darrick Forrest, plus another young receiver, Elgersma. Every one of them brings flexibility, special teams value, and depth, exactly the kind of players a team calls when it needs backup fast. And here's the interesting part: instead of sitting still before facing the Cleveland Browns, Chicago is clearly pushing, adding, testing, and searching. This isn't a team shutting down for winter, it's a team gearing up for something bigger. Stay with me, the next part explains why these names might not just be tryouts, but replacements. Jha'Quan is the kind of player who slips into the building quietly but can change a game in seconds. He's not just a receiver, he's a spark plug. Speed, balance, returnability, and the kind of sudden acceleration that flips field position in one play. Chicago may not say it publicly, but the timing feels connected. Joshua Blackwell took a hit on that recent return, and the sideline reaction said enough. If he needs time, someone explosive has to be ready. Jackson fits that role perfectly at 5 feet 9 inches, 188 pounds, built low, fast, and fearless. Only 25, drafted by Tennessee, and known for creating something out of almost nothing. His final season at Tulane said just as much as the scouting reports: 26 catches, 16.9 yards per grab, 4 touchdowns, 439 receiving yards. That yards after catch number jumps off the page. It isn't volume, it's danger. 1 step, 2 cuts, and suddenly the chains are moving. Even more eye-opening, he averaged over 28 yards per kick return. Chicago has needed that kind of field-tilting energy all season, and they know it. And then there's Dohnte Meyers. Another receiver brought in with the same theme: speed, return upside, versatility. Fresh out of the Canadian League, 5 feet 10 inches, 190, also just 25. Different path, same purpose: create space, stretch defenses, threaten special teams every time he touches the ball. It doesn't feel like these were random tryouts. It feels like the Bears are preparing for a decision before anyone outside Halas Hall sees it coming. Stay with me, the next section reveals why 2 receivers might only be the beginning. Dohnte Meyers didn't just flash in Canada, he dominated. 65 catches on 85 targets, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a stunning 16.2 yards every time the ball touched his hands. That isn't just production, that's pressure. Defenses knew exactly who he was, and still couldn't slow him down. And the return numbers only add to the picture. 29 yards per kick return is the kind of field position coaches dream about and special teams units fear. Fast, fluid, decisive, the kind of athlete who turns a quiet stadium into a roar with 1 cut. Chicago has been searching all season for someone who can flip the field and give the offense life before the first snap. Meyers fits that need so perfectly it almost feels planned. Then the focus shifts to the other side of the ball: the interior, the muscle, the trenches. 2 nose tackles came in, and the message was loud even without words: the Bears want more power up front. Keondre Coburn stands out immediately. Super Bowl experience, built like a wall, and still only 25. At 6 feet 2 inches and 322 pounds, he isn't just a body in the middle, he's an anchor. Kansas City drafted him, Tennessee used him, and now Chicago is looking closely at what he could bring if that defensive interior needs fresh strength. 14 career tackles, 7 solo, and a tackle for loss might not look flashy on paper, but interior linemen rarely get the headlines. Their job is disruption, control, and making the lane disappear before it opens. Coburn has done that at the highest level, and you don't win a ring without knowing how to handle chaos in the trenches. Stay with me, because the second defensive tackle they brought in tells an even deeper story about what Chicago is trying to fix before this season tilts. Keondre Coburn may not have seen snaps this season, but his resume speaks louder than any depth chart. He has a ring, he's lived inside a championship locker room, and he knows exactly what it takes to stand toe-to-toe with playoff-level offensive lines. That matters, especially for a team that wants toughness to show up before kickoff, not develop over months. He could step in immediately if Chicago needs muscle, rotation help, or just someone who understands the grind of the trenches. Then comes Isaiah Raikes, younger, raw, but far from random. He shared the field at Texas A&M with Chicago's own draft pick, Zach Pickens-Turner, and that shared history tells its own story. At 6 feet 1 inch and 320 pounds, just 22 years old, he's more than a body for camp reps. He was scouted alongside Turner, studied, evaluated, and clearly remembered. 15 tackles at A&M, 13 solo, a couple of disruptive plays behind the line, nothing flashy, but enough to show he knows how to win leverage and collapse pockets when asked. Chicago didn't bring in 2 nose tackles by accident. They're building insurance. If the interior needs reinforcement, they don't want to scramble, they want options already waiting. And now the spotlight shifts to the secondary. Joshua Bledsoe arrives with quiet familiarity. Speed, toughness, special teams value, 5 feet 11 inches and 207 pounds, and yes, limited defensive snaps, but respected for what he brings in coverage and pursuit. Missouri used him aggressively, and 15 pass breakups there remind you why New England once took a chance on him. Even if he hasn't carved out a defensive role in the pros yet, he knows how to stay ready, and special teams doesn't reward stars, it rewards discipline. But the name that stands tallest in this defensive back group is Darrick Forrest. Veteran presence, real snaps, real battles, real scars from Sundays that matter. Experience is its own stat, and Forrest brings more of it than anyone else who walked into Halas Hall that day. Chicago didn't just invite depth, they invited reliability. Stay with me, the next section unlocks why these defensive backs might be more than temporary insurance. Darrick Forrest might be the most surprising name on this entire list. 5'11", 200 pounds, 26 years old, and with numbers that don't belong to a player on the street. 137 tackles, 4 interceptions, 9 pass breakups, forced fumbles, and real starting experience. That's not just depth, that's production. His 2022 season alone could have earned him more recognition, 88 tackles and 4 picks. No spotlight, no Pro Bowl nod, yet he played like someone who belonged in both conversations. With Kyler Gordon's status uncertain, this isn't a casual visit. Chicago needs someone who can step in, play fast, communicate, and hold his ground without week-long adjustments. Forrest fits that description as if the roster already knew his name. Then comes the final piece, the quarterback. Taylor Elgersma isn't walking in for headlines, yet his presence raises eyebrows. 6'5", 227 pounds, strong arm, composed pocket style, and a resume full of production from Canada that looks impossible to ignore. Over 4,000 passing yards, 70+% accuracy, 35 touchdowns. And then the detail that makes everything click, time spent with Green Bay's system. Maybe he's here for depth. Maybe evaluation. Maybe a look at future potential. Or maybe Chicago wants someone in the room who has seen the Packers from the inside. Teams do it more often than fans realize. Sometimes knowledge is as valuable as arm strength. Whatever the reason, it all points to one truth: this wasn't a random December gathering. 7 players, multiple positions, past success, youth, strength, return talent, championship DNA, system familiarity, all rolled into one quiet day that didn't feel quiet at all. Something is shifting inside Halas Hall, and every name brought in suggests the Bears want answers before the season gives them surprises. Stay with me, because this story isn't finished yet.